All right, every morning I get in this car, I warm it up, and it reeks like fuel. I'm tired of it. I've been hunting it down for weeks. I need to figure it out. Today's the day that we figure out what the heck is going on, because I can't take it anymore. There isn't enough air freshener on the planet to overpower that. Let's figure out what's going on. I think I have finally narrowed down the source of the fuel smell in this thing. Fuel pressure regulator right there. Definitely smell coming from that. That corrugated hose right there that you see, that's wet, but the blue stuff is coolant, so I want to make sure this little hose isn't leaking. It definitely smells from this area. I even tried getting the bore scope in there. You can't really see that it's moist anymore, and I bet this is the reason why I smell it and then I can't find any trace, because it starts to evaporate. Just gotta find out the source of that little coolant leak and make sure that I'm not chasing coolant. You can see the glistening off that black corrugated piece. That's definitely wet as well. I'm trying to cotton swab it here so I can smell it and see if it's coolant or fuel. So hopefully finally track this thing down, because this has been like every single day I've been smelling it, been trying to find it, can't. Just pull it in the shop, run it, won't do it. It'll only do it first thing the next morning, because the drive home you think it's fixed it. Put a fuel line over there to make sure it wasn't the braided line. So this thing has been giving me fits. It's time to swab it. This is the kind of thing that gets you choked to death when it gets stuck in the belt drive. Little drawstring for the hoodie, that's gotta go. All right, folks, it's confirmed. The problem is 100% caused because of me. I accept my wrongdoing, and this is now penance. Either way, I need to fix it, but it is my fault. Let me show you. So, I've been chasing this fuel smell, obviously, for days, weeks. Feels like forever. The whole problem is because I didn't want to paint this manifold. Yep. So this manifold, original crinkle paint from Subaru, was in like fairly mint condition. There was a little bit up here. These weren't there originally. Those got scuffed after, installation and handling. But I wanted to keep the original finish, even though it's like a brand new block underneath, all these brand new parts. It doesn't look like it up top, but I wanted this to look, vintage, kind of period correct. Regardless, I have to pull it off now because the fuel leak is the fuel pressure regulator underneath. To make matters even worse, even if I wanted to just snake off the manifold, leave the TGVs and try to leave all the fuel shit there, or leave all the fuel stuff there, and just take off the manifold itself to paint it and fix the problem, the crossover pipe O-ring on this side is seeping because there's a little tiny pool of the nice blue Subaru coolant. You can't even see it in there, but there's a little tiny pool in there on the top of the head in one of the castings. So either way, I got to get the crossover pipe up and out and change the O-ring. I don't know if it didn't seat right, got cut, who knows. Burr in there. Either way, I accept full responsibility for my actions of being somewhat lazy and also hopes of salvaging not only my time and effort, but the original parts of the car. But either way, the manifold's got to come off now. Timing is all set. We can stop tearing apart the front half of the engine. Now I can just start doing the top half, so. I just walked into the shop. And Dom told me that this is, what's the word you used?
Menacing.
Menacing, which I thought was a very good word choice. I'm not really excited to hear it about our own car though.
So we obviously see under the hood of these things all day. Now, I'd like to preface this by saying the only reason we took it off this way is because I was led to believe that all the bolts holding everything underneath the intake were missing. Now, there's 4 under it. If you've never taken off a Subaru manifold, right? You got 1, 2.
So they hold
the fuel lines and the wire loom to the bottom of this. Which is why when you pull these off, you pull the TGVs and you pull the whole assembly. You take the whole harness with it. It's nice and simple.
That's what you call the textbook way.
I was led to believe that all of these were missing.
So yeah, usually like lazy people or people that just don't care because nothing's gonna happen to it, they don't put those back in there.
Yeah, so it would have been simple. Disconnect a few things.
Somebody that was like overly meticulous and like maybe had some time and maybe it was off the vehicle and on a bench, put them back together.
Yeah.
So. Might have given you a little bit of a harder time. Okay, so forgetting all that, it's off.
I mean, just look at the bay right now. It just looks.
This is why a tuck was like so nice on these cars because there's just like so much busy work going on.
Doesn't it look crazy? I mean, granted, I left a lot of things in here to like push the reservoir over to the side and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
so our whole entire issue is this connection right here, I believe.
You sure it's just that one?
Well, it's questionable on these, but now we're hoping it's just a fuel pressure regulator and not these, but these came with the kit.
That is part of the kit?
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I don't like that.
That's the part of the kit. This connection, I believe it's the same issue that we had up top here where the inner diameter of the Teflon braided hose is a little bit bigger than the actual barb coming off the pressure regulator.
Now, are these already clamped on in the kit? You have to clamp
You have to cut, yeah, you cut everything to the length. They just give you a T, and I think they give you another T somewhere else.
No, I don't like it. I mean, I get it, but
it's universal because there's so many different setups you can put these top feeds on that like everybody's is different. So do we take the chance of trying to make sure that this makes a better connection, or do we just get rid of it and go fully adjustable fuel pressure regulator?
You're just not using the right size, the right size hose for the right size, line. So.
You can't make that hallway any less big for that hot dog to go down it. All right, so now it's time to put aftermarket fuel pressure regulator on it. We're gonna need some more hose and cut some stuff. So I guess let's figure out what we don't need, get rid of it, and we'll take some measurements on how we're gonna route it and what we need. Discovery on this car, we're obviously chasing a fuel leak, and I saw some seepage down here for some coolant. As you can see, it's blue. Dom found out it's both sides. Then when we pulled it off, we found even worse news that there wasn't an O-ring in there, whereas there is just silicone. Now, that's not silicone around an O-ring, that's 100% silicone. That one right there, as you can see, is just gooped up silicone to make up for, that's gotta be what? An 1/8 inch, 3/8 of an inch?
Yeah, at least an 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, that's a pretty thick amount to not have any kind of O-ring in there at all. There's differing theories amongst people about O-rings plus silicone, all this other jazz, but no matter what you think or believe, 100% silicone is not going to do the job under the pressure of a cooling system. So it might have been kind of a blessing in disguise that we had a fuel issue here and we had to take this off anyway, because that would have been a major blowout, whether it's on us during break-in or we, God forbid, you sell it to somebody and then nice hot day they're cruising around with their friends and blows that seal right out.
Hopefully this is the end of it.
Yeah.
It's just looking like we don't know what we're doing, but we really do. And that's how we're fixing
this. This is that car, Christine, that nightmare car that like is possessed. This should be like ruby red instead of PSM silver. Maybe it should be PMS silver. This car is hating us. Just had a revelation here that our machine shop, when we sent this block, or this short block, or long block I should say, assembly out to them, they knew that this short block assembly was an IAG build. Clearly marked, stamped, serial number, the whole deal. So they might not have even taken the lower assembly apart, and this could actually be from the previous machine shop that did all the bad machining to begin with. Which would kind of make sense considering, as Dom just brought up, they also used the wrong cam seal and they just rammed in the cam sprocket into it and did a bunch of other bullish things. So I could definitely see them using the Cheese Whiz all up in those ports and not even caring about like a 59-cent O-ring. They probably used almost more money in RTV than what the 2 O-rings probably cost. Either way, it doesn't do anything for us now other than asserts that we still have a better machine shop than others. But still, we just got to clean this all out, do it the right way, put the O-rings in it, and then onto fuel pressure regulation. All right, so I should just keep this thing rolling because the hits just keep on coming. If you remember, maybe we should flash back right here when we're editing. This plate right here, it's probably gonna be tough to see. See that green right there? Because we're still using this nice green braking oil, that makes it easier to spot. But that plate is supposed to be siliconed in with some RTV. We had a oil leak from behind the clutch, which turned out to be an inspection cover that ironically didn't have RTV silicone on it. Also thought it was from our machine shop that forgot, but turns out it's gonna be from the same guy that did use RTV silicone for the water crossover. So it's kind of falling into place. Unfortunately, it's still like falling on my toe, falling into place and hurting me, but it's all making sense now.
I can't believe we've had the transmission out of this car. Like after we put the engine in, now we have the top of this thing back apart.
Yeah.
We really need to tell everybody about the whole story with this car. Now this will never happen again.
Literally, I don't want to jinx it. I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say that there's something we haven't even touched yet, but I don't even want to say it. Okay, it's the rear differential.
Oh, well.
We haven't actually had to do anything to that yet.
I don't think the other shop would have had any reason to touch any of that.
Well, no, but I mean, we've had the tranny out, we've had the engine apart, we've done all these things since it's supposed to be done. The only thing we haven't had to touch, and I've got like 300 miles on this thing for braking, and no hums, no weird noises and whatnot. In another world, you should wrap this car red and call it Christine because it has been a nightmare.
And people will notice that it's sunny outside, and these videos started when there was snow on the ground.
Yeah.
We will get these cars done faster. We'll get videos out faster, but it's just still got to run a business. So hopefully we'll start growing, and we'll be able to do these things faster. Like all of this in a few days than a few months.
Yeah, because then we can dedicate no phone ringing, no customers walking in the door and bothering us, asking for something, having to stop and do something. We can literally just start to finish, 2 of us banging it out and getting stuff done like it's supposed to get done. That's the end goal. So I'm gonna get back to welding my rear end. No pun intended, because that's legit. We'll clean this stuff up, and then we'll get to mounting the pressure regulator once we get that all bolted down and actually sealed up with real O-rings. Now, to fix this fuel leak, we have this fancy adjustable fuel pressure regulator from Aeromotive. And it's obviously got dual inlets and 1 outlet. So the way it's supposed to be done now is there is no T. You just have obviously a T'd shared inlet, so it flows to both sides evenly, and then each outlet will go to the regulator itself, and then 1 return line will go back to the tank. So that means we get to redesign and undo everything that we just did. Well, look at that. The beauty of cinematography. We're all done. Well, okay, not really. I just put this on to test fit. I had to make sure that we have clearance underneath the manifold for electrical and the fuel lines and whatnot. So just a test fit, false alarm, back to work. Well, I wish they came off that easy. While I was waiting for these fittings to come in, this is gonna adapt right here to number 6. Basically, you just cut the line end off because it's gonna have a little flare on it. Inside here is a little brass ferrule. I don't lose it. And it's basically just compression style, so it'll clamp right around the metal section of this. So finally got those in, and I'm looking at this, and I'm just thinking, though the regulator fits here quite nicely, compared to where the lines come in, it's gonna be a pretty crazy angle of like 90ing down and then having to come back up into the regulator. So I think we're gonna opt for a little bit more traditional location and just put it in here where the factory fuel lines used to exit. A nice little clean look, kind of recess it in there. So right now, basically all we're gonna do is fabricate a bracket to utilize these holes that used to have this little bracket assembly just holding up the wire loom. So that's now the new plan. We're gonna fire this in here. Still have to remake hoses no matter what. It doesn't change any of the routing. So we didn't lose any Teflon hosing or anything like that in the process. But it'll recess in there, it'll look nice and clean. We'll have plenty of room around for the hose, for the intercooler, bypass valve, everything. So might need a couple of extra little fittings and whatnot, but it'll still be better than a super sharp angle, because then this return port is pretty much right in line to go right in. Obviously we're not using this rubber, but the angles are looking pretty good as far as flow. So let's get a bracket. I'm gonna have to make a template and fab up a little bracket here. So let's start with that first and see how she looks. Well, as it seems for every AN project I ever do, you never have all the right fittings you want. No matter how many you end up buying, you still don't have the right combination. So last line, literally the last line, which is just the return line from the regulator to the actual car, I need a straight connector right here, and the smallest angle I have right now is 60 degrees. So that's not gonna cut it. Good news is that's not gonna stop us from being able to put the manifold back on. So I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble all this. I'm gonna grab the last fitting that I need, make up this short little line, and then hopefully fire this thing up and not have any more fuel leaking and continue our break-in mileage.
God, look at this.
So just for comparison, we've got original, old, crusty, brand new, shiny VHT. Obviously you can see VHT red, this is dulled a little bit from age. Isn't exactly the perfect color match, but it's got the good texture, and it's just gonna make the engine bay look nice and fresh. So, should have been done the first time. Unfortunately, I had to pull the manifold off anyway, so it got done no matter what. So, I think this is still my penance for not painting it the first time. Meanwhile, Dom is having so much fun on one of our favorite things ever, which are turbo inlets.
These things suck.
Even with the exhaust and the intake manifold off the car.
Yeah, this is still a nightmare. It's still a nightmare. Even if this was out of my way, it's just like it's miserable to try and get it back. Like,
so is what you're saying next Subaru has to be a rotated setup because we don't want to put a turbo inlet on?
Absolutely, because I don't want to do this.
You heard it here first, folks, on camera.
All rotated setups is the only way we're ever doing this.
Subaru is only rotated from now on. Why? Because we hate inlets. Where we left off, obviously, was manifold on, so now I'm going to plumb some lines, a couple of vacuum hoses for the actual regulator, and then for evap, and just get the intercooler, throttle body, and everything back on. So let's get this thing done and out of here. We're kind of getting like the old school wrestling vibe where we got to like tag in and out because I got to go do some welding, so Dom's going to finish up, so it's almost like... Oh, we got traffic jam and everything? I'm trying to give you a high five over the ropes to tag you into the ring, and you're just bumping my cart? I see how it goes. I'm over here, got my little super secret welding project all done. Checking in over here. We're basically all ready and hooked up to turn on the fuel pump and prime the system just so we can double check all the lines and connections and fittings to make sure we don't have any leaks before we throw the intercooler back on and cover everything up. We just need to put a gauge in here so we can set the base pressure first rather than deadhead the pump because I don't think it's gonna want 100 plus PSI at idle. So let's throw a gauge in there, set this thing up, check for leaks, we're good to go. It's supposed to be 43.5 technically, so anywhere like 43 to 45, somewhere in that range. I know the gauge isn't gonna be exactly that accurate, so.
Back and off, you mean.
Yeah, yep. So this is the moment of truth. The moment you've all been waiting for. I know, anxiously awaiting.
Like the third moment.
The third moment of truth. I mean, it's been probably
So what?
I don't know, 15, 20 minutes for the people at home, but it's been a hell of a ride for us here.
So what, we had the transmission back out of this thing, right?
Yep, because we had the leak behind the clutch.
We had the front end of it back apart to deal with the timing.
Yep, we had to take all the timing all apart to replace sprockets and all the eccentrics.
And then we replaced the fuel system.
Now we've taken the intake manifold back off and redone phase 2 on the fuel system.
This normally wouldn't happen. I don't think. If this was any other, this car's cursed. Like I don't think this doesn't happen to us if we do a job like this.
No, this is only because this is our attempt to build, flip, and sell a car and make money. And it's like, no, I don't want that. I'm just gonna.
Customer's car, you know. We already quoted them, and you know, let's say we ran into a broken bolt or something, we had to eat that. But yeah, it still would have gone out the door with very little issue.
So we've got vacuum line off, so we can set base fuel pressure. We've already pressurized the whole system and run the pump on prime fuel pressure, so that way we know we don't have any leaks in the system. Now we can set the base fuel pressure while it's running, and just to hear this thing run again right now, I'd be ecstatic. Start going with I think I had like 200 miles of break-in, so. Let's see what we got here. Maybe give it one last prime just to make sure nothing stupid.
Priming at about 48 or so.
Okay, here we go. I missed that clutch. Oh yeah, because it's supposed to be like fully warmed up, blah, blah, blah. But other than rich exhaust, I don't smell any fuel. It's looking good, it's running good. I gotta check engine light on for something.
All the things we may or may not have left unplugged.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's probably from priming it yesterday with a bunch of stuff left unplugged.
Yeah, the oils were left unplugged on this side while we were doing that.
Yeah, so that's definitely what it is. So we had an instant check engine light on, but we were priming it yesterday doing key cycles, and we had a bunch of stuff left unplugged. So that should be it. Is that? So if you've ever been driving down the road with your access port plugged in and all of a sudden you hit a bump and it just goes blank or it reboots, or you're trying to pull a code and you gotta like hold the connector hard up into the underneath dash, the OBD connector port, this is the reason why. Years of constant pushing in and pulling out wears out the connector called the DLC. So what happens is he just doesn't make a good electrical connection. So what Dom is doing right now is he's depinning it and taking the connector apart and then literally spreading open the connection inside.
I guess technically closed, right?
Yeah, technically, yeah, you're pushing it kind of closed. Either way, he's making a tighter connection so that way when the finger of whatever device, whether it's your access port or a little scan tool, pushes in there, it actually makes a good solid connection and you can get a reading.
Alright, so let me try. See if you can focus on that. So there's like a little, there's a little tab in here. It's basically like a spring, and that basically keeps tension on the male terminal that when you put your scan tool onto it.
Oh, do we have to have the birds and the bees talk first on this channel?
I don't know.
You know, male and female.
But so what you do is there's normally just a little hole in the back of the terminal. So you just take a pick, and without poking yourself in the finger, you just give it a little press, and now if you look in there, you'll see that that little spring tab is...
That's a max we can get without not being like focusing.
It's all the way closed now, so you'll get a good contact when you have your access port or your scan tool plugged in. This is really common on something that is basically plugged in all the time, you know, because lots of check engine lights on Subarus.
Yeah,
normally for 4th cylinder misfire.
20 years of plugging in and out. In other news, if you guys want to send your tax-free donations to our channel, Dom could use a manicure.
Yeah, oh yeah. Isn't that something?
So meanwhile, he's fixing that, so that way, because we have to clear the codes because we primed it and cranked, we had the key cycled with a bunch of stuff disconnected, so we got a check engine light on. And I want to be able to run with the access port on so I can monitor some things while I'm driving. I am back here putting all the covers back on for the fuel pump and the fuel sending unit for the transfer over there. Try to get some of the smell underneath the car, and we'll have to like roll down the windows and air out the rest of it, but get this all squared away, and I don't even know what number we're on for 4th or 5th first test drive again, so either way, we'll get it back on the road, back to accumulating break-in mileage, and dare I say, troubleshoot the next issue. I mean, it still smells like fuel, but that's pretty much all inside the car right now, I think.
That's good.
I think we're good. Give it the official good old sniff test.
Realistically, nothing?
I smell nothing. This is
That's good.
a long time coming, but I think we finally nicked that, finally, so.
Yeah, so what's left now?
It smells like I got a little bit of maybe an oil burn here or there. I don't know if maybe just we got some stuff on the manifold, but I think obviously we're gonna continue the break-in, but for now it's really just kind of like shake down whatever else might happen, and then once we're solid with the drivetrain, finish up the interior and exterior. So
it's pretty much the
hopefully mechanical is mostly done.
So hopefully the next video of this car should be maybe a couple dyno pulls and then actual like driving.
Yeah, I mean I gotta do stupid stuff like, you know, some of the brake calipers need to get refinished and things like that, but that's all like enhancements and stuff to make it look pretty to sell. But I think the actual like heart of it, the drivetrain, hopefully is solid now. So yes, I want to actually start getting some power, not just like barely hitting a couple pounds. I want to boost it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Not full send yet, not ready for that yet, but ready to start making a little bit of power.
Then we'll have a couple more Subarus after that, and then hopefully maybe move on to something different.
Yeah.
Maybe give the viewers something else to watch.
Forget the viewers. You and me need to change of pace because I'm killing myself over here. Both of us. We're so tired of looking at the same things. We got so many parts from so many different engines. We don't know what's going to what anymore. No, we need to change of pace. So yes, agreed.
It's not like we hate Subarus or we're knocking the brand, because obviously we spend a lot of time.
Just a few.
A lot of time with Subarus, but it would be nice to move on to something else.
Maybe not do like, I don't know, 6 in a row. Maybe do like 1 or 2, then sprinkle in something different to change it up a little bit. Maybe even V8 related, I don't know, but anything different. So at this point, I'll just be happy with anything different but this car. So
I miss having a Mustang.
next video, no more of this. Done.